Revealed, 4 shocking milks you must avoid after 64 incredible choices for a healthier you. Marty Johnson sat in the doctor's office, the weight of the world suddenly dragging him under. How could a simple checkup unravel so much? His doctor's voice faded into the background as he stared at the fluorescent lights, feeling a nausea creeping up his stomach. Your cholesterol levels are dangerously high, Marty, the doctor had said, and just like that, the very milk he'd savored all his life was now the enemy. He imagined his grandchildren, those little faces beaming with delight around the dinner table, lost amidst creamy mashed potatoes and cherished family recipes. Would he have to tell them now that dairy, that beloved comfort, could be his downfall? His instinct was to shield them from this new burden, but how could he? He'd always prided himself on being their rock, the steadfast grandpa who built toy cars and mightily fixed up old engines. This felt bigger than him. Grease is a comforting scent, a reminder of his wife how they'd share late-night snacks while he rubbed her feet after a long day. She'd dished out hugs and home-cooked dinners, never once mentioning the cholesterol. Was all that comfort leading him here, to this unforgiving moment? The cafeteria's holiday tables loomed in his mind, laden with tradition. Each bite had woven a thread in the fabric of their family. But what if those threads were fraying? He found himself returning home, riddled with doubt as he dove deeper into his new reality, the late-night cloak of articles blurring into a kaleidoscope of fear and recognition. Sugar-laden alternatives, the very ones his kids used out of convenience to please him, felt like betrayals. As he began weighing options, the relief he sought morphed into deeper confusion. Struggling to adjust, he knew he was clashing with everyone who had ever loved his cooking, the comfort foods intrinsic to their family legacy. As decisions mustered around him, he bumped into Linda at the local farmer's market, the air crackling with the scent of fresh earth and abundance. With her engaged voice around apple cider vinegar remedies, she opened his eyes to a world he didn't know existed, a world of light and health. And yet a spark of anger flared within him, against those who resisted change. Could he convince his family that a healthier future required the sacrifice of tradition? Or would they dismiss him as the old man with newfangled ideas? With every cross-armed holiday dinner conversation, the chasm was widening. His siblings treated his passion for nutrition with skepticism. Conversations, once filled with laughter, now teetered precariously on the edge of family warmth and stubborn tradition. They loved him, yet questioned his disorderly intrusion into long-standing customs. Resentment brewed as Marty looked in the mirror, contemplating his own reflections. Was he fighting for the future or merely for himself? How could he face them at the next gathering, while keeping their spirits bright? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. He swallowed hard as the day approached. His heart raced at the thought of coming forth with his newfound knowledge. Memories played like an old movie reel in his mind. What was he asking of them? Change. Fear and anxiety coiled tight in his gut. Each dish on that table, each bite, had been a symbol of love, and now he was barging in like a storm with warnings about health, a crisis brewing in the shadow of mashed potatoes. Marty gripped the edges of the dining table as if steadying himself against uncertainty. Could he deliver a message of love wrapped in an ultimatum? Standing at the threshold, the weight of their approval felt heavier than any engine he had ever lifted. Uncertainty nipped at his heels, daring him to hesitate, but his resolve surged. There, amongst the familiar embrace of his waiting family, he was faced with his greatest challenge. Yet would they accept not just his request, but the man behind it? Marty stepped into the warmly lit dining room, his heart pounding like the hammer of a blacksmith. The table was like an altar to tradition, laden with dishes that held the echoes of laughter and love. But today, every aroma, every familiar sight felt tainted by his new reality. He was prepared to face them, to plead for understanding. Yet the thought of disrupting the joyful cadence of their gathering tightened his throat. He swallowed hard, catching sight of his grandchildren as they raced around the living room, lost in their games. joyful, blissfully ignorant of the conversation he was about to initiate. They laughed like it was the most natural thing in the world, voices rising with energy. A pang of guilt shot through him. Was he really prepared to shatter their innocence? Just as he steeled himself for confrontation, his sister, Sheila, swept into the room, hands full of her homemade apple pie. Her smile shone like a beacon from the oven. "Marty, are you ready to dig in? You wouldn't want to miss my pie before it's gone." Bliss in simplicity, but there was an edge to the sweetness he couldn't ignore. "Actually, Sheila," he began, words clumsy and awkward as they tumbled out. "I need to talk to you all about something important." The room quieted, smiles fading, faces turning toward him, wary and curious. This was it. "What's wrong?" his brother, Ted, asked, a hint of concern furrowing his brow. Marty took a deep breath, grounding himself as he had learned to do through countless hours in the garage process, methodical, steady. "I had a checkup. My cholesterol levels are dangerously high, and I need to change how I eat what we eat, really." Their expressions shifted. The innocent excitement of family dinner darkened, anticipation mingling with dread. "But I made your favorite," Sheila's protest caught in her throat. "I know, but to keep up with all my favorite things, I need to breathe some new life into them." Words surged as the weight of their legacy clashed with the need for change. Healthier options. Fresh ingredients, things that make us feel good and aren't a burden on our bodies. The air in the room grew thick with an unspoken tension. Ted crossed his arms, embodying the skepticism resting on the periphery of their familial bond. "You think we need to overhaul everything for you? We've been fine eating like this for ages." His words hung in the air, accusatory yet laced with genuine concern. "Then let us experiment together. We all love cooking. I don't want to fight tradition, but maybe we can redefine it, evolve it." His voice gained strength. The fire ignited within him, urging him to stand firm. "We can keep our memories while also considering the future." Silence reigned, an uneasy truce in the air. He could see the wheels turning in their minds as they processed his words, torn between love for him and the nostalgia encapsulated in the food they cherished. "Please," Marty pressed, vulnerability spilling from his heart. "I want to be around for you guys for the grandkids longer. Let us discover new traditions, together." There it was, his commitment wrapped in hope, like a lifebuoy amid turbulent waters. Sheila opened her mouth to respond, but the words caught in the tangled emotions swirling in the air. The tension was palpable as they all sat, teetering on the edge of what could be a new path. Marty clenched his fists beneath the table, an unyielding determination forming. He was ready to face their doubts, yet part of him whimpered at the idea of rejection. What if they wouldn't budge? What if it all turned against him? The reality of losing their connection over something so simple, food, felt insurmountable. Ted finally leaned in, anger flickering in his eyes. But something else too, disappointment? The time had come to face their habitual ways or risk losing everything he held dear. Was he ready to battle for a healthier legacy? His heart raced. As Marty grappled with their responses, he realized the fight ahead was just beginning. How deep was his resolve? How far could he push his loved ones without breaking their hearts? All he knew was that the moment of truth was closing in, and it was time to confront more than just recipes. The silence stretched like a taut wire, each family member processing the storm Marty had just unleashed. Sheila, who had always worn her heart on her sleeve, was the first to crack. Her hands trembled slightly as she placed the pie on the table, her eyes dancing between happiness and hurt. I want what's best for you, Marty." But changing everything feels so sudden. Marty took a moment to weigh his sister's sentiment. It wasn't just about the food on the table. It was about their shared history, bound tightly by meals of comfort. The gravity of that shared narrative began to loom larger than even his initial worries for his health. "I know it feels sudden, Sheila," he replied, forcing gentleness into his tone. "But I'm not asking for an immediate transformation. Just small changes, where we can start exploring new recipes that keep the good memories but also care for our health." He could feel the heat rising in his chest, pushing him to keep pleading his case. His niece, Emma, hesitated before speaking up. "But what if we don't like those new foods? What if it's just not as good?" This innocent question landed like a boulder, ricocheting around the room. It forced Marty to grapple with his next move, an unexpected challenge by his own family. Change is always uncomfortable at first, he said, clenching his fists in a mix of frustration and determination. But isn't it worse to just wait and risk losing the opportunity to enjoy life together? I'm not asking you to give up what you love just to give something new a chance. As their responses continued to spiral through doubt and disbelief, something else began to simmer beneath his skin, an unexpected counter-narrative that told him their reluctance was more about fear than affection. Let us cook together, he suggested suddenly, an idea sparking in his mind. This Sunday, let us gather as we always do, but instead of the usual, we can prepare something altogether new. I'll bring some healthy recipes, and we can experiment. It could be fun. An eye roll from Ted underscored how estranged he felt about the impromptu challenge. You think we're going to turn our Sunday into a cooking experiment? Why not? Marty pressed back, the wind of newfound resolve filling his sails. There's so much joy in creating something together. It's about sharing experience, not just the meals. Sheila studied her brother, and he could see the conflict in her eyes, part loyalty for their traditions, part intrigue regarding the challenge. Maybe I'd be willing to try one new dish, she conceded finally, her tone softening as she glanced at Emma, who was now nodding enthusiastically, caught up in the possibility. Just one, Ted muttered, his arms still crossed defensively. But Marty caught a hint of shifting ground. The walls that had seemed so insurmountable now felt like fragile obstacles in his path. As the conversation began to drift toward ideas of new ingredients and the possibility of laughter in the kitchen, Marty sensed a shift in dynamics, a wave of potential for growth swirling in the air. It was not merely about food. It was an opportunity to redefine their family's way of sharing love through nourishment. But something stirred within him, a nagging question. Was he prepared not just for culinary adjustments, but for the deeper implications of these changes? The intertwining of health and family tradition was a vast ocean he had just begun to navigate. What if the changes rippled beyond the kitchen table? What if they triggered forces that would challenge their very foundations? As the evening progressed and voices began to lift in warm anticipation, Marty's heart palpitated with excitement and fear. Was he ready for the depths that lay ahead? Beyond this first step, a sense of foreboding intertwined with anticipation gnawed at him. He was only beginning to unravel the tapestry of old traditions and the promises of new beginnings. Could he steer this ship toward a healthier legacy without capsizing the love they had always shared? As he pondered the task at hand, he felt the weight of his responsibility intensify, eager yet apprehensive to dive deeper into the unknown waters of change that awaited. The vibrant sun spilled into the kitchen, illuminating the remnants of the previous night's conversation. Marty stood at the counter, a clipboard in one hand and a pen in the other, his heart thumping with the anticipation of change. The battle lines had been drawn, and he was determined to navigate these new waters despite the undercurrents of resistance that flowed through his family. Every recipe he drafted sought to invite the spirit of their shared history into healthier considerations. He meticulously selected ingredients while picturing Sheila's apprehension, Ted's rolled eyes, and Emma's enthusiasm. They all weighed heavily on his mind, pulled him in different directions. But each choice felt like a declaration and assertion that health could coexist with love and familiarity. Marty could feel a spark of creativity igniting within him. He envisioned the kitchen buzzing with laughter, smells wafting through the air, and the camaraderie that had made their Sunday gatherings sacred. Yet doubt stitched its way through his resolve. Would this experiment alienate them further or foster connection? The planner inside him kicked into overdrive. He glanced at the dishes he meticulously selected, balancing nutrition with flavors. Cauliflower pizza, quinoa salads with fresh herbs, even a guilt-free chocolate mousse that could wow even the most skeptical of sweet tooths. Each recipe held the promise of not just healthier bodies, but healthier relationships. Could he possibly be the catalyst for both? As he wrote down the last recipe, the door creaked open, and Sheila entered, a frown etched on her face. "You're really serious about this?" "Absolutely," he replied firmly, resisting the urge to show his uncertainty. "This is about more than just food. It's about us, our health, our connection." She tilted her head, studying him. "You do realize everyone might not jump on board right away?" A motherly concern lingered behind her words, softening the edge of doubt. Marty nodded. bracing himself for a storm of disbelief that might brew on Sunday. I do. But that makes it even more important to try. We owe it to ourselves to explore, even if it feels uncomfortable. I'll try to be supportive. Just don't expect fire and fanfare for every dish, Sheila said, a tentative smile flickering at the corners of her mouth, eye in the face of her hesitation. Marty felt a surge of adrenaline course through him. Progress, however small, felt like a victory worth fighting for. We'll start slow. One new dish this week. That's it. If we enjoy it, we'll keep going. If not, no pressure. Sheila took a deep breath. Okay, one new dish. But what if it really flops? That's what makes it an adventure, he countered, his determination morphing into a genuine smile, infectious in its simplicity. If it flops, then we can laugh about it and maybe even make a list of never tries together. As Sheila chuckled, Marty felt a knot of anxiety loosen. The connective thread of humor could weave their experiences in the kitchen into a shared memory, transcending mere sustenance. But the underlying conflict still simmered beneath this light-hearted moment. Ted's attitude loomed over him, casting a shadow that reminded Marty of the challenge ahead. What if Ted's resistance turned into a confrontation that split their family apart? Marty's heart sank slightly at the thought, but was quickly rekindled by the vision of broader possibilities, an entire family dynamic transformed through courage and adaptation. The intersection of ambition and fear, the tension within him remained palpable. The Sunday gathering held infinite potential. Yet, as he stood there with Sheila, he also recognized something deeper within himself, an unlikely capacity for leadership that he had never explored before. Could it be that stepping up now could reshape everything? Marty steadied his breath, holding tightly to this newfound realization. He had the power to alter not just his diet, but the very fabric of his family's weekly traditions. But would that power hold against the weight of resistance on Sunday? Could he master the recipe not just for health, but for unity? The lines blurred, momentum and dread dancing together in his mind. The clock ticked toward the weekend, and self-doubt wove itself tightly into his thoughts. Would he truly be the positive force they needed, mobilizing love through nourishment amidst fear? He felt the urgency building inside him, pressing at the edges of his resolve. As a wave of realization washed over him, excitement ignited again. Would he have the courage to step into this new role? This was more than just a cooking experiment. This was the moment to show what he was truly made of. As Marty gathered his ingredients and plans, the question of who he would become on Sunday loomed larger than ever. The stirring chaos of change beckoned him closer, and in the depths of his heart, he knew that everything he believed was about to be put to the ultimate test. The sunlight barely pierced through the windows come Sunday morning, as the remnants of doubt hung in the air like morning fog. Marty stood in the kitchen. The familiar chaos of his family felt oddly distant now, like a dream he was struggling to wake from. He glanced at the clock, counting down the minutes until everyone would gather. This was it, the test of his resolve, a challenge not just against their reluctance for healthier habits, but also against his own insecurities. That he pulled out the ingredients, the vibrant colors a stark contrast to the muted hues of his apprehension. Each piece of fresh produce represented not just a meal, but a chance to reshape their interactions. Would Ted's critical eye cut through his enthusiasm like a knife slicing through tender greens? The thought of his brother's dismissive comments gripped Marty's gut. Yet he pushed the fear aside, reminding himself that every great change comes with resistance. The product of his aspirations lay before him, the cauliflower pizza base cooling, the herbs washed neatly on a cutting board, and the chocolate mousse resting in the fridge. Marty took a deep breath, inhaling the mingled aromas of hope and anxiety. Could food really mend the strains of history simmering within their family? I guess this mad scientist of a kitchen chef is ready, he muttered to himself, managing a nervous chuckle. But would they embrace the stranger behind the apron? As Marty straightened up, a surge of determination surged through him. He was not just a cook today. He was a leader, the architect of their potential unity. Yet, lurking in his mind was that incessant voice of doubt. What if this went horribly wrong? What if he lost the fragile connection they had? A connection built over countless meals shared through the years. It wasn't long before the sound of voices echoed from the entrance, a mix of commuting footsteps and laughter. Emma, the youngest, burst into the kitchen first, her eyes wide with curiosity as she caught the scent wafting through the air. "What cooking, Marty?" "Just some experiments in progress," he replied, allowing an upbeat tone to color his voice. Emma's excitement was contagious, and he watched as she meandered over, intrigued by the ingredients laid out. The next to arrive was Sheila, squeezing through the door with a hint of caution. Her motherly instinct was ever present, shadowing her steps as she processed the transformation occurring in the kitchen. "You know, I'm really rooting for you. Just remember, people are fickle." "Fickle," Marty grinned, testing that puzzling word against the backdrop of his hopes. "This will be an adventure, right? Trust me." But confidence wavered as Ted strode in, his usual charm mingled with an air of skepticism. "You sure we can't just get pizza delivered instead?" he quipped, and Marty felt the jab cut deeper than intended. The passing discomfort threatened to rob him of the boldness he had embraced just hours prior. There it was, Ted's signature indifference, wrapped in a challenge. "Come on, Ted. Just give it a try?" Emma chimed in, already plucking a slice of the cauliflower crust from the cooling rack. "You know this is just a glorified veggie experiment, right?" Ted shrugged, not detailing the defensiveness in his tone. Defensively stepping forward, Marty's heart raced. "It's more than just food, Ted. It's a chance to change, to redefine the way we gather. We owe it to ourselves to really look at this." The room held a momentary silence, old rivalries hanging like shadows over the breakfast table. Marty felt the pulse of his words echoing against Ted's resistive stance, snapping like a taut string. He had opened the door. It was now a gamble on whether they'd walk through. With a slow exhale, Ted's brow furrowed as he moved toward the table, loud laughter burning away the tension ever so slightly. "If this flops, I'm giving you a hard time, you know." "Absolutely," Marty nodded, deflecting the weight of the challenge with humor. "And we'll make it a weekly never-again contest." Marty suddenly felt the fleeting yet undeniable power of acceptance seep into the room. Maybe this gathering wouldn't deliver perfectly cooked dishes, but it carried the seed of connection he so desperately sought. As the first bites were taken, anticipation crackled in the air. Would they actually enjoy what he had presented? For a fleeting moment, as he felt the hesitant approval from first bites, reality dawned upon him. This was about confronting not only resistance from his family, but the fear that dwelled within him. The moment had come for him to face the unknown head-on, confronting not just Ted's challenge, but the part of himself that often hesitated to believe in his own voice. With each chew, the family quietly tested the waters of change. But as Marty observed their expressions, surprise, hesitance, joy, he found himself standing on a precipice of self-defining realization. Not only was he ambitious for this meal, but he was ready to embrace leadership, regardless of its outcome. The kitchen was filled with mixed reactions, a balancing act on the tightrope of tradition and innovation. And as the taste of change lingered on their palates, a new layer of tension emerged. Would Marty's transformation forge a new path among the echoes of their resistance? Would this one Sunday truly mark a turning point in their unsuspecting history? All he knew was that the exploration had begun, and perhaps, into this uncharted territory, there might be more revelations yet to uncover. The laughter around the table rang louder than the simmering doubts in Marty's mind. As the family sampled their meal, a delicate interplay of skepticism and delight painted their reactions. Marty surveyed each face, seeking affirmation, yet bracing for critique. Emma smiled, savoring her slice with unabashed joy. Sheila offered gentle nods, channeling her culinary support as she chewed carefully, and even Ted, who grimaced initially, began to soften, a hint of novelty glimmering in his otherwise skeptical demeanor. "Okay, I'll admit, this isn't the worst thing I've ever eaten," Ted conceded, attempting nonchalance while clearly wrestling with a newfound respect for his brother's culinary ambition. His joke barely masked the intrigue brewing beneath his bemused exterior. Marty fought the urge to ask for further validation, knowing that it might undermine the tentative victory he tasted. Instead, he focused on the collective atmosphere around that table. For the first time in a long while, there was laughter, banter, a liveliness that had been lost amid the familiar divides. The fickle nature of each person's taste was vanquished by a singular pursuit of togetherness. "Next week, let us do taco night, kale by popular request," Marty teased, his pulse racing with the thrill of this unexpected leadership role. He realized this was more than an attempt at a healthy meal. It was about forging a path for them to explore together. The thought ignited a growing flame of confidence within him. The conversation shifted, and Marty allowed himself a moment of inner reflection. He was prepared for whatever might come next. If he could grapple with Ted's sarcastic barbs and navigate Sheila's cautious optimism, he could embrace the vulnerability of pursuing his own growth. Yet, as the green light flashed across their faces, a reminiscent shadow flickered in the corner of his mind. Was he allowing himself to bask in the warmth of acceptance only to risk the pain of failure again? The repetitive cycle of doubt threatened to creep back, but determination fueled his resolve. He was no longer simply the awkward younger brother. He was crafting a legacy that transcended family feuds as they cleaned up after the dishes. A tension surged back within him. What lay ahead in this journey? Would he genuinely sustain this newfound momentum or revert to the shadows of his old self? Each conversation now felt like a puzzle piece. Would they truly fit together, or was he outlining a false picture? "Hey, Marty, you'll plan more of these nights, right?" Emma asked, her eyes wide with enthusiasm, breaking his spiraling thoughts about future disappointments. "Absolutely," he responded instinctively, surprised by the steadiness of his own voice. "And I was thinking maybe we could hold a cook-off. You know, make it interesting." Ted raised an eyebrow, clearly entertained by the idea, but cautious at the same time. "Are you ready for that?" "I'll take you on any day of the week," Marty countered, a competitive edge unfurling within him as anticipation mixed with fear. Each challenge they shared would stretch him beyond his comfort zone while drawing them closer together, no matter the outcome. As the evening wrapped up and everyone drifted off, Marty lingered in that innovative space he'd begun to carve out for himself. He replayed the interactions of the day, dissecting the moments that had brought them closer. The path ahead shimmered with uncertainty, but he had taken a firm step into leadership. Would the foundations he had built today hold strong against future storms? Did he have the endurance to sustain this change? But what he didn't know about himself was about to be tested in ways he could never anticipate, and the realization gripped him harder than any bearish stick of celery. Just as he felt a surge of clarity take hold, his phone buzzed on the counter, a message from Ted reading, "Next week is on, but you better be ready." Marty gulped. The excitement mingling with anxiety. More than just cooking lay ahead. The challenge before him was not of food, but of heart, family, and proving that commitment to the journey mattered more than perfection. As sleep beckoned, he turned towards those ambiguously hopeful thoughts of the week to come. Would this really be the turning point he craved, or merely another random attempt at depth that would ultimately dissolve? His phone buzzed again, a notification for a culinary competition in town. A moment of truth hovered on the horizon. Would he dare to enter, and what would it mean for his family's dynamic? The possibility loomed heavy in the air, and with it, that relentless promise of growth beckoned him forward. Marty woke the next morning with a jolt, the remnants of last night's exhilarating dinner swirling chaotically in his mind. The notification about the culinary competition hadn't faded away. Rather, it insisted on occupying a prominent space in his thoughts, pulling him toward potential decisions. He rolled out of bed, his decision-making tied to that moment of truth. Felt burdened yet exhilarating. Could he stride beyond his fears and embrace this challenge? Standing in the kitchen, he found solace in the routine of making breakfast. As he whisked eggs, his mind raced through the logistics of the upcoming cook-off. Could he transform a simple meal into something extraordinary enough to impress Ted and the rest of the family? The notion offered a mix of excitement and dread. What if he failed? Simultaneously, the fear of stagnation seeped into his thoughts. If he didn't act decisively now, would he forever remain the timid younger brother overshadowed by Ted's bravado? He set the frying pan to medium heat, and the sizzle of the eggs fueled his resolve. This wasn't just about cooking. It was an opportunity to redefine himself. There had to be more than the brotherhood of rivalry. What did victory or failure mean when family bonds were at stake? "Marty, you're going to embarrass yourself," he muttered, half laughing at the self-doubt creeping in. Absurd. He wasn't here to appease his own insecurities, but rather to stretch into an unknown version of himself. This mindset ignited a flicker of determination, and with that spark, he made a choice. Later that day, he decided to visit the local farmer's market. looking for fresh ingredients that could elevate his meals. The vibrant colors and array of scents drew him in, each stall brimming with possibilities. He interacted with farmers, wondered about their recipes, and asked for their recommendations. This simple act ignited a passion previously foreign to him, awakening the culinary explorer buried beneath layers of self-doubt. Each engagement chipped away at the anxiety stifling him. He found himself excited, curious about food, and reveling in the camaraderie of cooking to tea the herb stand. An elderly woman watched him intrigued as he selected fresh basil. "Cooking with love, dear? Remember that's the secret ingredient." She smiled knowingly. Her words resonated. Love. It was more than just execution of technique. Forging connections, reviving memories, and creating with intent were the essence of why he pursued this journey. As he absorbed the wisdom, he questioned how could he exemplify that love during the competition. With a basket full of produce, he returned home. Immediately, his mind diverged into strategizing for the cook-off. Each recipe he contemplated was a chance to showcase the talents he feared he might lack. His thoughts swayed between ambition and the ghosts of past failures, each creating a tug-of-war in his mind. With his family relying on him, he felt pressure mount. He questioned the complexities of his emotions. Was he truly ready to embrace the vulnerability needed to put himself out there? That night, seated at his dining table, he mapped out his approach. His phone buzzed again. A group chat thread with Ted and Emma ignited enthusiasm for the upcoming event. As he shared his ideas, the hesitation began to slip away. For the first time, he acknowledged the creativity simmering inside him. Suddenly, his anxiety morphed into fervor. No longer consuming the thoughts of failure, he started forming an authentic recipe that blended his identity with the love of family, applying the advice from the woman at the market. "Let us add a twist with a family secret," he typed, pouring his energy into the digital conversation and plotting a dish that represented him. It was about more than just competition. It was about representation, showing the evolution he felt within. But as their excitement surged, so did the creeping doubt. Did they truly believe in him? Would this experiment culminate in applause or disappointment? As he prepared for the cook-off, transforms interlaced. With uncertainty fired inside him, the real test loomed. A true revelation of character was near. The day of the competition approached, and with it, the question lingered. Would Marty emerge as the innovative chef he aspired to be, or fall back into the shadows of self-doubt? Each decision would carve his path into a reality he might finally embrace. Marty awoke before dawn, a sense of restlessness gnawing at him like a persistent itch. The competition loomed like a shadow. Its presence felt not only in the anticipation but in the self-doubt that lingered like a companion. He pulled the covers off, steeling himself for the day ahead. It was no longer a question of whether he could participate, but rather how he would conquer the unease that festered inside. As he moved to the kitchen, he could almost hear the vibrant market sounds from yesterday's laughter, the clatter of utensils, and the fragrant bursts of fresh herbs and vegetables. That experience had infused him with a taste of empowerment he hadn't fully grasped until now. Channeling that energy, he began preparing his ingredients for practice. Each slice of onion, each chop of pepper, became a small victory as doubts clashed against a budding resolve. This routine felt new yet electric. The act of transforming raw ingredients into something worthwhile became a metaphor for his own journey. He could almost hear the elderly woman's words echoing. Cooking with love. With the sun rising, he focused intently. The recipe he had contemplated over dinner with Ted and Emma was daring a classic family dish infused with a personal twist. It was equal parts homage and innovation, an expression of self that dared to push boundaries. Yet as he sautéed, a gnawing thought disrupted his focus. Was he truly ready for the scrutiny of the competition? Would his family champion him, or freeze him beneath Ted's looming shadow? Marty's adrenaline spiked as he executed the dish, working swiftly but avoiding a rush. Every action was deliberate, every taste purposeful. As he plated the food, he realized this was only practice, yet it felt so significant. The colors matched his evolving spirit, rich greens, vibrant reds, and golden yellows. But would anyone see the intention behind it? Would love seep through the flavors, or would fear drown it? He settled down, inspecting the final product. There was beauty and creation before him, but uncertainty loomed like a specter. The digital map of their group chat buzzed on his phone, breaking his reverie. Ted had messaged an encouraging note. "Can't wait to taste what you whip up. You're gonna kill it, bro." It was invigorating, yet it twisted the knife of emotion deeper. He found himself staring at that message, toying with a mix of appreciation and skepticism. Did Ted really mean that? What if this makeup of love and fear fell flat? Cracks of doubt resurfaced. Was the brotherly competition merely an illusion? Beneath the surface, did they still believe in the same childhood dreams, or had it evolved into rivalry? Suddenly, he felt overwhelmed. Marty took a deep breath. Screw the doubt, he thought. Each setback was a rung on the ladder of growth, a step towards navigating through vulnerabilities. The next stage wouldn't simply be about cooking. It would center on profound personal growth. For the first time in his life, he wasn't measuring success against Ted's achievements, but instead focusing on what success meant for him. A wave of clarity washed over him. He would transform the impending competition into a celebration of self-discovery. He would embrace passion over performance and purpose over mere validation. There, at the kitchen island, he wrote a message back. "Thanks, Ted. I'm ready to share a piece of who I am." But just as the thrill of inspiration sparked within him, a chill of apprehension gripped his gut. The spotlight of the cook-off was swiftly approaching, and the stakes would soon feel all too real. Each dish would be scrutinized, each flavor dissected. As he settled down with his notebook, spurred to jot down his reflections, a sense of urgency bubbled beneath him. The creative aspect needed to merge perfectly with technique. But could he balance his instincts with the pressure of expectation? What he didn't know was that the true test was just around the corner, both in the kitchen and with himself. The moment arrived as a revelation, challenging him to confront vulnerabilities he long buried. Would he capture the cooking love he had ignited in spirit, or would the judgment unravel him once and for all? The sun climbed higher, casting elongated shadows in the kitchen that echoed Marty's internal struggle, the light illuminating each corner, revealing both its warmth and its flaws. He stood alone, ingredients around him like scattered pieces on a chessboard. The upcoming competition wasn't just a culinary challenge. It tugged at threads woven into his identity. He grabbed his notebook, flipping through pages filled with hastily scribbled notes and half-baked ideas. Among the clutter lay a singular page marked by a bold headline. "What does success mean to me?" Scanning the questions, he recognized how the definitions began shaping his mind, swirling between ambition and doubt. There was power in this examination, yet fear dogged every discovery like a faithful shadow. Marty thumbed through the pages, each step uncovering the genuine desire to carve out his own path. He recalled how just entering the kitchen had felt like a tentative step toward self-assertion, yet the burdens of expectation loomed larger. How could he foster creativity while teetering on the edge of vulnerability? The split between culinary artistry and fear of judgment pulled at his confidence every day that he paused, embracing the quiet as the silence morphed into reflection. Cooking was not merely about executing techniques. It was a dialogue with his soul. The act of seasoning a dish felt akin to seasoning life. Everything must balance. He needed to stop deferring his passion to sync with perceived expectations. What if he infused his genuine essence into each recipe rather than crafting an aesthetic that pleased others? Fueled by this realization, Marty began to reorganize his thoughts. He took a deep breath and dove back into the preparation. Choosing his ingredients with purpose, he focused on each piece, clenching garlic with both hands, feeling its texture, appreciating the pungent aroma. It became a sensory experience, significantly stirring something new within him. Each element held meaning, a symphony of flavors reaffirming that stepping into his own culinary skin was not just possible, it was essential. Lifting his head, he glanced at the wall where a chalkboard hung, filled with spontaneous kitchen sketches and quotes he'd found inspiring. One caught his eye: "Innovation thrives on brave imperfections." He let those words settle in his chest. Accepting flaws as part of the creative process was crucial, yet he had always shied away from the messiness of greatness. In those imperfections, he realized, lay his own answers for success. Determined, Marty jotted down a new plan. He would create a dish that told his story, a blend of family heritage with his flavor influences. A meal as layered as his own journey would echo profound meaning. turning each spoonful into a celebration of identity rather than a contest for validation. He took his time developing flavors, challenging himself out of old habits. The act of cooking became meditative. However, just as he ignited himself with clarity, doubt nudged at his consciousness, a reminder that no dish could please everyone. This was a confrontation that he must prepare for, giving voice to both self-acceptance and fear of failure. He wrestled with the idea of judgment, not just from the judges, but from Ted, his family, and ultimately, himself. As he began to plate the first dish reflecting this newfound identity, his hands trembled slightly. Would they see the authenticity beneath? Would he have the courage to present a dish that risked not being embraced due to its deviation from expectations? The yearning for acceptance clenched tight within him. Distractions swirled as the time of reckoning approached. Each moment felt charged with purpose. He was not just nourishing others. He was nourishing himself, pushing to unveil aspects of his culinary self that had long been tucked away. Suddenly, a reminder buzzed on his phone, jolting him from contemplation. An unexpected message from Ted. Remember, it's not just about winning. It's about sharing our love for food. The message hit like a thunderclap, casting a new perspective on the competition. How could he interpret love beyond accolades? As he stood at the precipice, with plates designed as pieces of his soul, Marty faced the dawning realization that the upcoming contest bore deeper stakes than rivalries. The time had come to confront not just the fears born of competition, but the depths of his willingness to reveal who he truly was, stripped of layers. Would he embrace the true flavor of vulnerability, or allow his journey to simmer in fear? As the kitchen filled with the fragrance of his creations, anticipation wrapped tightly around him. In the depths of uncertainty, a lingering question hung heavy. What would it take for him to fully unveil his identity without losing himself to comparison? Marty stood backstage, heart racing as he eagerly leaned against the cold metal railing. The smell of spices and fresh produce wafted through the air, igniting memories of family gatherings and traditional meals shared. For the first time, he didn't feel like an imposter hiding behind a facade. He felt alive, fully prepared to showcase himself. As the announcer's voice reverberated through the auditorium, signaling the start of the culinary competition, he closed his eyes, recalling all that had led him to this moment. Weeks of preparation surged through his mind: the farmer's market visits, the late-night recipe experiments, and the vulnerable conversations with his siblings. This journey wasn't just about altering cooking habits. It was about demonstrating personal growth. He had learned to communicate his values more clearly, to embrace healthy adjustments without losing the essence of tradition. The participants' nervous energy only fueled his now evolving confidence. He carefully arranged his ingredients on the countertop, provided a beautiful display of fresh herbs, vibrant vegetables, and lean proteins, all carefully selected to craft a dish that embodied both heritage and innovation. The realization washed over him that today he wasn't merely competing. He was asserting his identity as a cook, but more importantly, as a family member who took their shared love and transformed it into nourishment meant for longevity. As the first round commenced, he began slicing vegetables with precision, letting his movements flow freely. Each chop resonated with clarity. He wasn't just creating a dish. He was forging connections, breathing life into his own definition of success. Cooking with love wasn't just a proverb, but the cornerstone of his culinary philosophy. His menu reflected their family recipes, intertwined with healthier elements to ensure they served not just material satisfaction, but emotional connection too. While blending flavors in a vibrant sauce, he allowed himself to reflect on his growth. He had conquered his fear of confrontation, embraced his voice, and even paved the way for open dialogue with his family, a once unthinkable endeavor. This experience was as much about self-acceptance as it was about food. 30 seconds left, cooks rang the countdown early on, and his heart stuttered. It was time to assemble the plate, an artful balance that would symbolize his journey. Every choice from presentation to flavor combinations was deliberate, an artwork echoing his heart. With each garnishing herb laid gently atop the dish, he could practically hear the conversations from his family's table, echoes of warmth and love now radiating through this creation. As he stepped forward to present his dish to the judges, the fusion of uncertainty and excitement coursed through him. He offered a soft smile, a sign of not just readiness, but of joy for this moment, the embodiment of who he had become. As he explained his dish, anecdotes of family traditions peppered the narrative, showcasing not only the flavors, but also the values intertwined with each ingredient. The judges leaned in, sampling the fusion of flavors, offering nods of approval. As they deliberated, he couldn't escape the thoughts of his family. Their reactions, their encouragement, and their willingness to explore new paths filled him with exhilaration. This was more than simply competing. It was a testament to his growth, to celebrating change alongside saving tradition, an effort that had already found its fruition. To his surprise, the announcement came sooner than expected. The winner of this year's competition is Marty Johnson. The words erupted through the venue, sending shockwaves of affirmation throughout his being. The weight lifted, replaced by an overwhelming sense of achievement. He was no longer defined by his worries or comparison, but rather celebrated for his individuality. As he stepped up to accept the trophy, the applause of the audience felt like a warm embrace. This recognition wasn't just about culinary skills, it validated the emotional labor he had invested in change, both personally and within his family unit. Returning home, the trophy still warm in his hands, he found his family gathered, excitement and curious expressions lighting their faces. "Congratulations, Marty," Sheila exclaimed, wrapping her arms around him, pride mingling with surprise. "I knew you could do it," Emma chimed in, bouncing with elation. He looked around the room, taking in the familiar faces, the skeptics now shining with an interest that had, only weeks earlier, felt distant and opposing. His heart swelled with warmth, the very essence of shared heritage now coming full circle. "Thank you, everyone," he started, voice steady, allowing himself to bask in the moment. "This entire journey has shown me the importance of evolving our relationship with food and each other. I'm grateful for your support. It has meant everything to me." In that instant, he realized that he'd not only proven his ability to lead, but had also cultivated authentic bonds with his family. The changes he initiated were now embraced, creating a new vitality in their traditions, a harmonious blend. On that night, as laughter filled his home, Marty knew he had conquered not just the culinary world but the confines within himself. He had transformed from the quiet, doubtful brother to a confident leader, bridging the gap between tradition and innovation effortlessly. He felt a profound sense of fulfillment, evidence of a personal revolution reshaping not just his own life, but also the legacy meant to be passed on to his grandchildren. This journey had truly just begun, and as he looked at their joyous faces, he seized the moment to reaffirm that future meals together would cradle in creativity, love, and wellness. Food still had the power to unite, but now, it also represented a promise of continuity and evolution. For those craving inspiring stories of personal achievement and transformation, you must subscribe immediately to the channel. You need to follow along and not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread this motivation. Comment your thoughts, reactions, and theories about Marty's journey. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share the inspiration. Help us build this community of growth and discovery.